I went to a conference the other day, and it was a big question of when will institutions be involved in these DeFi protocols? And it's a very general question, but I sent out a couple DMs to like Stanny and Alex Mashinsky at Celsius and a bunch of other people we've had on the show. And what do you say? And Kain, it kind of separated into two camps. One of them was like the Stanny camp, who said, give the liquidity and the institutions will come. Mashinsky says, provide the KYC and the AML and the clean money, and then they'll come. And the Nexo guy said that too, and then some other DeFi protocols said that. First of all, do you think it's that black and white? What do you think is the future of institutions adopting in these markets? And is that important to how we evolve in the next, say, 24 months?
I think if you have a highly regulated, licensed entity that exists within the traditional finance system, it is still difficult for them to understand the risks of interacting with DeFi. Even for a very simple and straightforward and low risk product like Aave, right? Generating yield on Aave for a regulated bank, I think is something that is just not possible today, right? In almost any jurisdiction. Banks and entities in traditional finance, probably the most regulated entities, and it's just, I don't think it's a thing that can happen right now. You see some experimentation, a little dabbling, but I don't think KYC or AML or anything like that is even going to solve that problem for them. I think it's a deeper problem, which comes down to having a framework under which traditional finance and traditional regulatory structures and legislative systems can work out what DeFi is and how these regulated and licensed entities are going to be allowed to interact with it. And I think that that's a conversation that's happening in Australia right now. I'm part of that conversation. It's happening with regulators. It's happening with legislators and politicians as we try and navigate this pathway. But until we have some level of certainty, and until traditional finance can work out what DeFi is and how to kind of categorize it, I don't think that simple answers like AML, KYC, or other things are really going to solve it, unfortunately. So I think there's a deeper problem that needs to be addressed first before we can really see engagement. That said, that's the end state, right? Of like banks being able to interact. A hedge fund, very obviously can interact with DeFi, and they do. So there's a continuum. I think that you're seeing some institutional investment and participation, but I think when we get to a point when any institution or any licensed financial intermediary or participant in TradFi is able to interact with DeFi because it's an understood process of how you do that, that's when we kind of reach the end game, and I think we're not there yet.
What was I going to say? Regulation wise, what are you seeing in Australia? What are your thoughts on what we're seeing in the States? I guess the latest is the president is appointing a council, and then now it seems like a bunch of entities kind of want to be involved. Obviously, there's very state and local jurisdictions, and it's hard to tell what's happening. What do you see?
I think there's a couple things. One is tax policy, right? It's very clear that tax policy is lagging behind in most jurisdictions. Unless you go to Singapore or a place where they have like a zero tax regime on crypto. I think working out how tax policy interfaces with crypto is a hard problem. I think there's there are solutions there, but we're going to need to work hard over the next couple of years to kind of get there and work out a way for the average person who's interacting with DeFi to be able to be compliant from the tax perspective. So I think that's one conversation that's happening. And then I think there's another conversation about pure DAOs and where they fit into regulatory regimes, right? If you have no legal entity, if you're this extra jurisdictional magical software package that is coordinating people all over the world, like how does some jurisdiction work out what you are, right? That's a very difficult question to answer. I think we've seen things like the Wyoming experiment. We're seeing sandboxes and things like that. I don't know if they necessarily get it right. I think there's still an open question of how to create a framework that accommodates a pure DAO that doesn't break some of the magic of DAOs. And I don't think anyone's there yet. We're having this conversation in Australia. I don't know if we'll get there. I hope that maybe we can. But whoever gets it right, whichever jurisdiction gets it right and becomes a safe haven that can provide some level of certainty for DAOs that are existing. And DAO treasuries are, I don't even know what the number is now, $50 billion or something like that. It's a very large prize for whoever can solve this problem and work out a way to domicile DAOs without, again, breaking the DAO model. I think it's going to be in a very, very good place.